The announcement coming more than a year after officers killed Breonna Taylor and less than a week after the DOJ announced a similar investigation in Minneapolis. We've got team coverage for you here tonight. Dennis Ting and WHS 11's Tom Lally will bring us reaction from the city's police chief, the mayor, and the community. But first, we want to touch base with Tyler Emery. She's breaking down what this investigation really is, how thorough it's going to be, and how it's going to work. Tyler?
Well, Doug, the investigation is pretty wide-ranging, but at its core, the DOJ will be investigating whether or not LMPD here has engaged in a pattern of abusive tactics violating any federal or constitutional law. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, in his announcement today, said it's a civil pattern and practice investigation. It'll look into whether LMPD uses excessive force. That includes whether officers used excessive force during protests over the last year, and also whether the department makes unlawful or unreasonable stops, seizures, or searches of private homes, whether LMPD engages in discriminatory policing, and if the department fails to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
The investigators will seek input from every corner of Louisville. They will work with the community, with public officials, and with law enforcement officers. All of these steps will be taken with one goal in mind: to ensure that policing policies and practices are constitutional and lawful.
Senior DOJ officials say the investigation will also look for any civil violations and see if any of those are linked to LMPD policies and how they're implemented and enforced. The DOJ says there's no one incident that led to launching this investigation, not specifically saying it's tied to Breonna Taylor's case, but rather a collection of publicly available information relating to LMPD. Now, if violations are found or not found, that'll all be released publicly in a report. And if the DOJ finds any violations, they will work with LMPD and the city to mutually agree on steps and practices to correct any of those unlawful violations. Doug?
Okay, Tyler, thank you. Continuing our coverage here this afternoon, the reaction came out pretty quickly this afternoon on Twitter. Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, writing, "I can't wait for the world to see Louisville Police Department for what it really is." The department itself and other city leaders are also talking about the upcoming investigation. Dennis Ting is live right now outside Metro Hall as the police chief and the mayor both told us that they'll welcome this thorough investigation. Dennis, what'd they say?
Well, Doug, we heard the term culture change used several times, and that's what city leaders are hoping to see within LMPD as a result of this investigation. Louisville Metro and police leaders say they're welcoming this investigation. This investigation follows the Hillard Hines investigation conducted last year, which was ordered by the city and found several areas of concern within LMPD. Metro leaders say the Department of Justice getting involved will allow for even more resources to be put into this investigation.
I think having the federal government come in and look at what we have going well and what we don't have going so well is very important. And I don't think that it's any secret that we have a police department that has some troubles, but we also have a police department that has some of the very best police officers in the country.
Louisville Mayor Greg Fischer says the investigation will likely be looking back over the last 5 years. Fischer says he and other leaders met with members of the Department of Justice this morning, which is when they first learned about the investigation. Now, there is no timeline set right now as to when the investigation will conclude. Fischer did say that similar investigations in other cities like Chicago and Baltimore have taken about 13 months, but of course, Louisville Metro Police Department is smaller compared to those two. Live at Metro Hall, Dennis Ting, WHAS 11 News.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much. So could be lasting for about a year. And all new here at 5 late this afternoon. There was also a response in Jefferson Square Park, as you know, home to many protests following the killing of Breonna Taylor. WHS 11's Tom Lally is live with us now with more on what local protesters and others are saying about the federal investigation. Tom?
There were two big takeaways from folks who spoke here this afternoon. They finally feel that their voices are being heard, but on the same hand, say that the problems are far from resolved. Attorney David Moore, known for representing protesters here in Louisville and suing LMPD, welcomes the investigation, saying heads will have to roll in order to bring change to the department. Meanwhile, Dee Garrett, who you may remember from that viral video being punched by an officer as several arrest him, says he finally feels heard.
somebody is finally hearing our voices after over a year. I don't watch friends get hit in the face with rubber bullets. I know a friend, she got brain damage right now. I don't watch friends get hit in the private areas with rubber bullets. We gotta rush them to the hospital. And I don't watch the police act like they don't care, like they in war.
He went on to say he wishes LMPD and even the mayor would try to bridge the gap between themselves and disenfranchised members of our community. That's why they say they are happy to see another department step in with this investigation. For WHAS, I'm Tom Lally.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. As I mentioned at the beginning of our newscast, this new federal look into LMPD comes almost a week after the Department of Justice launched a pattern or practice investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department. Just like in Louisville, investigators are looking for patterns, whether LMPD engages in discriminatory policing, unreasonable stops, searches, seizures, and arrests, both during patrol activities and in the obtaining and executing search warrants for private homes. For Minneapolis, they're looking into excessive force in arrests or at protests and whether officers are acting under discriminatory behavior.